Welcome to the IELCE Civics Network meeting for California for June 2022. It's June 29th, 2022. My name is Lori Howard, CASAS Program Specialist Coordinator, and I'm thrilled to have you here with me today. I know we'll probably have a limited attendance because of the time of year, but I hope then that people who need to hear this information will be listening to it on the recording that I send to the IELCE Civics Network, or that will be posted on the IELCE Civics support channel at CASAS.org. We don't have a large agenda, but I added to a number of things that I realize it would be great to be reviewing. So we'll be doing some of that, and I hope that will be important for you. And let me show you the agenda. So just going to show you one slide about the CDE review of information, just because I won't be seeing you again until August, and I want to make sure you have that information. Regarding civic participation in IELCE, I wanted to review the COAAP selection process with you and talk about workplace needs assessment briefly. For those of you who went to the CASAS Summer Institute, I hope you might think of something you might share, one thing you took away from it or learned or was happy to participate in. If you'd like to share at that time, you may. Of course, that would be volunteer. And then I want to share with you two things that happened at the CASAS Summer Institute, the Civics Exchange presentations and the Social Justice Resources document presentation that was delivered there. We also had a small group business entrepreneurship work group yesterday. I want to talk a little bit about that. And then at the very end, Drew Gamet, one of our great principals, who's now, I think I have this right, at Cabrillo Adult Education, or who will be there soon, perhaps July 1. He wanted to talk to you about K-12 Success, a program that he's wanting to put in place in his new school and in perhaps impact his old school, and wondering your ideas about it and if you want to give some input to it. So we have Drew Gamet with us today too. So CD update, I just wanted to remind you one last time before it opens up on August 1st that the new RFA will be posted as a Word document on August 1st, and that will give you time to begin gathering your materials related to the questions on the RFA, and that then you would need to submit your demonstrative effectiveness, and that portal will open September 1. You'll put it in there. It will be due mid-September, so a quick turnaround, but because you've received it or you've looked at it since August 1st, they think you'll have enough time to do that. Those who are deemed effective programs then will be able to, on November 1st, begin submitting the RFA electronically, and that will be due mid-December, and then you'll hear back what happens. The term for this new grant is 2023 through 2026. They hope it might possibly be opened up to 27. I know you've heard that before, but I wanted to remind you one last time before I don't see you again. Before it's open.
Lori, this is Elaine in Hayward. Can I ask you a quick question? Is
Sure.
it going to be a narrative on that September 1st thing, or is it just basically data we're submitting?
That I don't know. Barb, have you heard anything more about that? If you have, please chime in.
I understand. I think you're going to have to speak to the 12 considerations. It's my understanding for the September, and what you're doing is demonstrating effectiveness. So there probably will be narratives.
Okay, thank you.
And do you think there'll be data as well?
Yes, you want to back everything up with data.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you'll get a preview of that on August 1st. Great. Thanks for your question, Elaine. Okay, so again, talking about civic participation and IELCE requirements, I just wanted to review or let you know that we are just finishing up everything that has to do with the IELCE Civics webpage on the CASAS.org. So the 21-22 COAAPs have been reviewed. Only one had substantive changes, that's 53.2. And I know pretty much only one agency is using it, so that shouldn't relate to most of you. We just changed the rubric. And you must use the 2022-23 version of a pre-approved COAAP. So be sure to review the revisions to COAAP document that comes out. Let me see, this will be the old one because I haven't yet posted the new one, but when you click here, you see that. So when you, sorry, I have to move all my stuff so I can scroll down. So basically you see what has been revised, nothing in these early ones, but in last year, we did do some changes in language. If it's just in language, you don't need to worry about it. But if it happens to be bolded, then, for example, in this case, we changed the rating scale because of comments from an agency. So any changes that are bolded, you have to do. And then you will also see anything that's new. So this year we had a new 14.8. Last year, there was a new 18.6. We'll get rid of this new because it won't be new anymore, but this one will turn to black. The reason it's in the one items are in green are those that changed during the year from July 1 through June 30th. So please, as you are about to select your COAAPs or after you've selected them, just see what's changed with them and see if there's any changes you need to make to your documents. Again, if it's just, if it's unbolded, you don't have to make those changes. It's just telling you that things were changed. Good. So the 22-23 COAAPs are available to view. They're all live, except perhaps 53.2, which we're in the process of changing. Again, I've linked everything here. The pre-approved additional assessment plan list will show you all of them in their current form. And again, as of July 1, again, we're feverishly working to make this happen, but all documents on the Civic Participation IELCE page are up to date as of July 1. I know that the Citizenship Prep page will be also updated very soon, if not on July 1. And again, this is the link to that page. So you will be able to select as of July 1. They're all new and up to date. So July 1, 22, the 22-23 COAAP selection process opens. The first time you enter, you will see this screen. So it's just to show you, especially if you perhaps are a newly designated person, to show you what you select, what your agency selected last year. And then, it pre-selects it for you as if you're going to do it. But because of your needs assessment, of course, this might change. So you can here select remove. Okay. And once you do that, you can select whichever ones you want to remove, or you can select them. If you're not sure, just go ahead and select and continue. That will allow you to meet the first deadline, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then you can always make changes until April 30th. But after you look at this page and you do whatever you decide, select or remove, then you hit the continue the selection process. And then that will take you to a screen that allows you to add. I can't take you there now because the system has been closed for the year, but you will see it. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me at lbhoward@casas.org or always at civics@casas.org as well. So you can.
Lori, there's a question in the chat.
Sure, sorry, thank you so much. Well, this slideshow, of course, yes, the slideshow is always available after this call. I will send it to anyone on my EL Civics network. We were not able to post it on the support channel, but the recording will be on the support channel. Just make me check that I have recorded it. Yes, I have. So the recording will go on the support channel. I will send the slides to the EL Civics network by tomorrow. If you want to be on the EL Civics network email list, please email me. Don't put your address in the chat, but email me at lbhoward@casas.org or always elcivics@casas.org. That will get to me as well. So select what your agency had selected the previous year or remove these selections. If you have any option 2 or option 3, and those are probably old at this point, but if you should want to keep them live in your system in case you want to use them in the future, always select them. So even if that brings your number to more than 10, we'll talk about that in a minute, be sure to do that because it's very hard for us to retrieve those agency created COAAPs that are in the system. So always check them. Again, click on continue the selection process, and then it'll take you to a screen where it says add pre-approved COAAPs, and then you continue the system as you normally would. Just a reminder, always go to checkout, and I put it in red because on the screen it says in red, go to checkout. If you don't go to checkout, your selections will not be submitted. You know if they're submitted because you will receive an email that says your selections have been submitted, and it'll give you the list. If you don't receive an email, just like when you register for this meeting or any other CASAS thing, you always receive an email that confirms that submission, registration, all the things. So if you don't receive the email, you haven't gone to checkout. Just go back and check. Okay, after you select, then it's a good idea to let your data person know, or you may be the person, that those COAAP numbers need to be downloaded into your system, okay, into TOPS Pro, so that then when you report a pass or a fail, it will go into the system and be recorded. And then for passes, your agency will have the possibility of earning payment points. Okay, so you can follow the instructions, and you must be logged in as either primary or ELC primary to access this. But you can see it's the third bullet at the top of the Civic Participation IELCE page, and it says over here, download COAAPs. That's where you find the instructions on how to do it. Okay, so select, then download. And then here is information about record keeping. Again, I just realized this time to remind you. So agencies need to keep one folder for each Civics class, not for students, each student, but each class that contains the assessment that you've given, the criteria that was used to score the students, any score sheets if it's an oral test, and then at least one pass and one fail of the test. So for oral tests, that's probably just on the score sheet, it says that. But for a written test, then you keep the one pass and one fail, so that anybody who's coming to audit or look at your agency could ask you for that. And you need to keep these either electronically, that doesn't say that here, does it? But it is electronically or hard copy, whichever you prefer. 3 years plus the current year, unless you know you're a subject of an audit, and then it needs to be kept for 5 years. You can find this information in the CDE Management Bulletin. And just to remind you of the deadlines, October 31st is the deadline for at least one COAAP to be submitted. This is an administrative deadline. We want to make sure that you know how to access the system, that your person has been designated as the ELC primary. Remember, if you're changing staff, that you should let your program specialist know who is the new designated person, and then we'll fix it in the system so that that person can access. You can have two people access, a primary and a secondary. But remember that October 31st is the deadline. Please don't wait to the last minute. If you haven't decided what to do, just choose anything or choose what you had before. It's just an administrative selection, just to know that you access the system. Then at any time you can change your selection. So please do me a favor and submit well before October 31st. Then April 30th is the last day to add, edit, or delete any ones you've submitted until then. And remember, that selection takes you from until June 30th. So anything you're going to use before June 30th of 23, you need to select by April 30th. That also goes for summer school. If you're planning on ending summer school before June 30th, you need to select COAAPs for that. So just so you know. Okay, I just wanted to remind you about the school community needs assessment. I know we talked about it a few times, but remember that each agency every year has to offer or conduct a school community needs assessment. And there's some examples of it on the ELCivics website. You need to complete a needs assessment summary form. There are two needs assessments, one a general for 231 funded agencies, but if you're a 243 funded agency, you need to do also a workplace content one. And that's really why I wanted to talk to you about this, because we want to make sure that you are not just making a list for your students of any old workplace dreams that your students might have. You need to start by surveying the community for job opportunities and surveying your businesses. What kind of jobs are available in your community? It doesn't help to train your students for a job that they cannot get in your community. So first, it's important to work with your administration and your WIB and your other community advisory committees to decide, which job opportunities are available, and then decide which job training your agency or any partner agencies can offer. If you've already done that, that's great. Just make sure that there are job opportunities out there and that your training is current for what's out there. And then you want to have discussions with your CTE and ESL teachers about what levels of English language learners could participate in the training with English support, and then develop a needs assessment, okay? Because you want to know which students, or if students want to participate in that training. There may be jobs and there may be training, but if none of your students want to participate, then that is not an appropriate career pathway. So make sure that not only are there jobs, but there's student interest in those jobs, okay? Then, so in developing and administering this needs assessment, then you can decide not only your selection of COAAPs, but also your creation, and I should have added this here, your creation of a pathway that leads to training and the job. Okay, and then you would also put that on your needs assessment summary form if you are an IELCE program. Okay, now it's time for our CASAS Summer Institute share. Does anybody want to share a takeaway, something you learned, something you experienced, something you want to add or request for next year? Anything about this CASAS Summer Institute you'd like to share? Barb, you're welcome to share also. But anybody else, of course, who would like to share. I hope you did participate either in person or virtually. Feel free to unmute yourself and tell us, or put it in the chat.
Hi, everybody. This is Lupe Lozano, and I'm with El Monte Rosemead Adult School. I just wanted to share what a great workshop I attended. It was through an IET workshop, and the presenter that I remember is Sweetwater Adult School. Sweetwater, it was a junior college, I think. Anyways, they approach IET differently. They started by presenting the program to current IET students, instead of what we do at our school is we present the program to ESL students. So they approach the IET students, and anybody who's struggling in CTE can join the language support class. So they have a much greater success rate of CTE graduates. And they provide that service without having to get payment points from those high school students or any student who's in CTE that's not connected to ESL. If they don't get a payment point, they're fine with that, but they have a graduate, which was great. I just really like their approach, and it's something that we're considering at our school to build up the IET program.
Thank you so much for sharing, Lupe. And I just wanted to mention, I think it was at our April meeting that Sweetwater presented, and I'm not sure they perhaps presented the exact information that you're saying, but they did present their great program. And you can find that listing of that meeting, the April meeting, on the EL Civic support channel. And we are going to snip that part of it when the content of the meeting goes away. We're going to snip their presentation and keep it on the website so people can go back and look at it.
Yeah.
So if you weren't at that meeting, I highly recommend you go back to the April meeting to hear about Sweetwater, because it is a great program.
I will certainly do that. Thank you.
Okay, great. And yay, we have a yay Melinda Holt comment from Elaine and others. So that's great. Thank you, Lupe, for sharing with us. Let me share a little bit of things that happened, other presentations that happened. One was the EL Civics Exchange. We had 3 meetings. One was virtual, one was in person, and then there was a poster session too at our Thursday breakfast. And we got a lot of participation. I wasn't there myself, but I heard there were at least 20 people in person. I don't know how many people online for the virtual one. So it was very well received. And just to remind you, we have this beautiful website that was developed by collaboration between CASAS and OTAN. We have many more materials there now. Actually, these are the ones we have, 6 different materials. 120 agencies have selected these COAAPs. I know it's only 6, but lots of agencies selected them. So we are serving a lot of agencies, which is terrific. And we want to serve more. These are the COAAPs that are most used, other than the ones that are already on the site. If you are teaching any one of these, we would love you to submit your materials to our Civics Exchange. We'd love you to show us the materials first. Again, send them to elcivics@casas.org before you submit, just to not get into the submission process before you're ready. Again, they need to be accessible, but we hope that you'll want to share with your colleagues and help others with the development that you've done. Remember that anything developed with WIOA 2 funds is the property of the state of California. It doesn't necessarily belong to you specifically anyways, and we'd love you to put it on this site so that everybody can use it. So that would be your contribution to the field. And remember, feel free to look at what's there so you have a model of what is an accepted material. There is a rubric on our website to look at so you know what the elements are we need. The materials must be accessible. And again, we offer you our advice and review before you get into the system of submitting. But you can submit them at elcivics.otan.us, and we hope to see some more materials, especially in these areas. But again, it can be, we're happy to have any COAAP, but we'd like to encourage you to do these because they're the most used and would serve the most agencies. So that was a great presentation. And then I was lucky to be part of a social justice resources presentation. And I know I've been talking to you about this since September. But social justice is an important area of instruction, and we realize not only for ESL, but for ABE and ASC adult students. And in order for us to address this effectively, we need resources. We are addressing it every day in class, whether we are trying to or not, because in the way we treat students, in the way we help students communicate with us and with each other, these issues are coming up. So we've developed a list of resources. CASAS, CAPE, TAP, and CalPro staff got together to do this. It's important for all agencies, ESL and all students, ESL, AB, ASC, especially important for EL Civics. All of the civic objectives deal with it, but especially those of you who are teaching 11 and 53, the new 53.2 or 53.1 and 2.2 would be especially important. So here's a link to the list. Let me go there and show it to you. So we are so excited about it because, well, we thought about organizing in a different way. It may change, but right now we have it with an outline over here on the left. So when you link to this, you'll see the outline. So you can just look here and go to the, I'm going to get my spotlight back, and go to the thing you're interested in. So I'm going to click on general information. It shows us that we're giving you, the basic information here in a number of links. We gave you some suggestions to help you get started. So just to get the idea of what your agencies need, we put in the agency here because we felt like, although individual teachers can do this and we encourage you to do it, if your agency is involved in a wider campaign, it would be better and easier for you to deal with. So we want to make sure agencies were involved. So we have suggestions, we have resources, using equity audits to see what kind of equity is at your school. And then we move to the information for educators. Again, suggestions to help you get started educating yourself. And we did give a presentation in last September about this, the kinds of things that you need to think about when you're teaching your students. We gave you a lot of resources to educate yourself, not professional development resources, self-assessment checklists, and information, just in general to further your learning. One of the areas that's very important is self-care. So a lot of issues can come up when we're talking about equity. And so we want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and that your students are taking care of themselves too. So we added resources that are helpful to both educators and students. So here are all of our resources, again, linked from this document. We have instructional resources, again, suggestions to help you get started, classroom norms, so that students know how to behave with each other, and you can start out your class with that. And again, if you do nothing else, setting up classroom norms in your classroom would be really great. Whatever you do, even if you do nothing else on this list, classroom norms are really important. So I hope you'll take care of that. You'll take a look at that, I mean. We also of course, have a section for EL Civics, and especially how it relates specifically to EL Civics. Suggestions to help you get started with the COAAPs, instructional materials also, and then a lot of instructional materials that you can use in EL Civics classes. Some of them from the Change Agent, some of them from Massachusetts organizations. So we're really happy with that. And then we have a section of frequently asked questions. We expect this to be a living document. So if you have questions and you ask them, we'll try to add them here to be answered, but maybe just as it is now is a good starting place, frequently asked questions. So I hope that's helpful to you. And okay, and again, here's the link. And I put the link, you can just go from the, and here's the link. Are the resources appropriate for beginning level ESL students? So do you mean the instructional resources? There are a few things that are a few instructional materials that are applicable to beginning low and beginning high. Others need to be adapted, but they were written for ESL students. So check out what's there. If you have any resources and you'd like to add them, please let me know and send them to me, and we'll see what we can do. We're going to be looking at this document and again, making it a live document. Sorry to scroll for you. Okay, good. Want to just report to you that we had a small business entrepreneurship work group meeting yesterday. About 12 people joined us, and we had a very interesting conversation. So what came out of it was that a team led by Maren Anton at Mount Diablo is going to be revising 3.2 with the goal of adding beginning low and beginning high students. We still haven't decided whether we can do that, but we're going to try. And she wants it to be ready by fall of 22. So that will be, and we're hoping to be able to post it as a pre-approved. So that hopefully will be available to you. We should know that by our August meeting. And so I will introduce it to you at that time when we're ready. And then a team led by Carla Frisler and Corinna Lopez from North Orange County Community Education are going to write a new COAAP we think it'll be in Civic Objective 3. And then we're going to send the materials to our work group for review. So that's coming up. Just want you to know, if you want to join the Small Business Entrepreneurship work group to review materials or meet again, we haven't set up a meeting for the group again. But if you want to be part of it, just email me at lbhoward@casas.org or elcivics@casas.org, and I will get that. Okay. Just to tell you, our next meeting is August 24th from 1 to 2:30. We're going to have Anna Marie, I think, Montañez from Harupa Adult School. She's going to share some cool IELCE program she's working on. I think one is security guard, and I forgot the other one, but I will let you know that in my email. It's going to be a good meeting because these are short-term programs that she's working with. They look really great, and we're going to hear about them on that day. And I hope you'll be able to, implement from her model. I hope our meeting after that will be September 28th. I need to check a few things before that, but I will be letting you know. Okay, so now we have Drew Gamet. And Drew, I think you can unmute yourself and you can share your screen also if you'd like to. Do you have slides?
No, I don't.
Okay, no worries then. I'll just leave this up. Is that your correct email address?
It will be as of Friday.
Okay, Friday. And how about the name of your school as of Friday? Is that right?
It's actually La Costa, L-A and then C-O-S-T-A.
I'm sorry, it's actually, tell me what?
La Costa Adult Education.
L-A-C-O-S-T-A with a capital C?
Yeah, with a capital C.
Okay, adult education?
Yeah, that's okay.
That's okay, I'll change it. I wasn't sure. So anyway, Drew has a great idea. He wants to talk to you about it. So Drew, please go ahead.
Yeah, so hello, everyone. So my name is Drew Gamet. I am, as of this moment, with the Redondo Beach Unified School District at the South Bay Adult School. And I'm heading up north on Friday. So if you look, I've got a bunch of boxes and stuff behind me because I'm moving. So, but I had this idea. So many of you might know Dina Matheson, who is also from our agency, who does some really great stuff with civics as well. And we've been working on trying to flesh out a series of COAAPs that are specific for supporting the K-12 success program. And we'd like to get a work group together because there's a couple of pieces that we'd like to dial in with the civics that we're using. So we'd like to try and we have identified 6 different civics that would be appropriate for supporting a program like this. But it occurred to us that on top of putting together COAAPs that would be multi-level so that we could make sure that there was that the levels are appropriate for our different level English learners. It also dawned on us that we should probably have it such that we have those civics also sort of oriented or at least posted on the exchange so that they could be easily adapted for an elementary group of parents, a middle school group of parents, and a high school group of parents, and also adapt the lessons so that it would be a little bit more plug and play to make it appropriate if you were trying to make it specific to a specific school or to a specific school district. The reason for this is because, at least for me, going up to La Costa, which is in Half Moon Bay, south of San Francisco, I think we're really thinking that this could be a really important tool for addressing the learning gap in our students. And so, but I have experience with elementary schools and I have experience with middle schools as well as adult education. It'd be nice to have someone who has some experience with high schools and working with high school parents. And it would, so there's a lot of moving pieces in this to dial it in such that we could present it on the Civics Exchange and really have it be something that would be a lot more direct and simple for someone to take and then implement. If you were to want to put together a class specifically designed for supporting these populations of parents in your schools or in your districts. I think much like we had done before, if you could send me an email, send Lori an email, and just let us know if you're interested, and we are going to work. I'm sorry, I have a ton of noise here. So, and what we'd hope to do over the next couple of months is really build out a lot of these civics, not just so that they just work for our agencies, but they could be really generalized for anyone who is interested in really trying to do the K-12 success program, but on steroids, really going after supporting those students. Lori?
Does anybody have any questions for Drew? I mean, we could certainly, if people want to get together, we could do that as a work group like we did yesterday for the entrepreneurship. If you'd like to be a part of that, feel free to say so in the chat and put your email address and we'll contact you and set up a meeting. Perhaps, Drew, you know, people need a little bit more content to think about. Did you had worked up sort of a sheet of general information? Maybe that's something that could be shared.
Yeah, for sure. I could definitely pull that together. I'm sorry, right now I'm in boxing, but if anyone's interested or just wants to have, you know, just kind of a broader conversation, you know, I think this is definitely sort of a framework idea, although we have, Dina and I have started kind of working through some of these civics in the way that we would imagine that it would work best. But we do really feel like it would be really powerful to have someone with some high school experience, because these are the different levels of parents that we'd really want to go after and really support.
Sure. And is there anyone on the meeting right now that has participated in a K through 12 success program to support or to program to support parents in the education of their children.
And if you haven't, that's fine too, because we haven't. I
Yeah,
mean, we've done some things, but it's not something that we felt like was a robust and rigorous program. And I think that's the difference. We really want this to be deep, meaningful, and usable and easily generalized.
great. So we just wanted to introduce it today, and we can bring it back up at our August 24th meeting. And perhaps if we have an outline at that time or whatever, that people can see a little bit more what specifically that we're talking about. So we just wanted to introduce it today. Does anybody have any questions for Drew or for me about this?
Lori, this is Nieves from Napa Valley Adult Education. We do have a part-time Ask 12 teacher, but the focus of the classes or workshops that he offers are more related to technology in the K-12 schools, especially with the pandemic. He's been doing a lot of one-on-one or small group work with groups of parents who are not familiar with the platforms being used by the district. So that's sort of the Ask 12 thing that's been happening at Adult Ed. It's very tech focused.
And that would be great. We definitely want that to be one of the components that we're looking to bring in. I think the thing that I personally would like to see more of would be as well is empowering our parents to participate in school site councils, empowering our parents to understand what the political structures are so that they can advocate for themselves and for their communities with their school boards. Things, like really build it out. So I think if you could join us, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, even having an email address so that parents get these notifications. I mean, it's tech related, but it's also related to just greater parent engagement. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And maybe as one of the, remember, I'm not sure which meeting it was, but maybe earlier in the year, and I'm blanking, but LA Community College District presented that newsletter idea from, and maybe something like that parents could access and have information on, maybe that is something that would help students, parents, even if they didn't come to classes, et cetera. That might be something that could be added. And I know it's helping LA Community College District a lot access their students.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what some of the concerns are in a lot of those civics, I mean, I think with the existing civics, we can definitely do it, but I think it just needs to be a little more crafted so that it just easily lends itself to this K-12 success.
Sure. We do have 13, I think it's 13, 14, and 15, right? COAAPs, civic objectives that relate to accessing schools, but and those haven't been updated for a long time. So we would appreciate, updating them, expanding them, making them more relevant to today.
For sure.
Great. Well, thank you, Nieves. So we'll keep you in mind for that. And anybody else want to make a comment? Or anybody else have any questions about anything that was said today or anything for the future? And if you would like to share something at one of our next meetings, please contact me at lbhoward@casas.org or elcivics@casas.org, because we'd love to have you make a presentation or about what you're doing in your school or any questions that you might have. So I think we've come to the end. This is a short meeting today, but I want to thank you for attending. I will be sending out the slides and the recording to the IELCE Civics Network. Remember, you can get on the network by emailing your email address or your request to elcivics@casas.org. And the recording will be on the IELCE Civics support channel very soon. Hope you have a great summer, a great 4th of July, and I'll see you on August 24th.